What's up, guys? ArtistVersion1 here, and welcome back to another edition of Stories No One Asked For, the podcast. And if you don't know by now, or if you're a new listener, a few years ago I wrote a little book, and it was a book that was filled with countless, unbelievable amount of spelling and grammar, whatever, but countless missing words and such like that. Oh, wow, right off the bat, I've already said that phrase. Um, but after countless attempts of trying to write a follow-up book, one based on my retail history, which we're going to be talking about some retail here tonight, and one just more stories no one asked for. I figure why not just take those stories and put them into a podcast? So that's what we do here on Stories No One Asked For, the podcast, and occasionally we bring on some guests and talk about their stories that no one asked for. Technically, I asked for them. I don't know. It's kind of a weird name for the podcast now. Anyway, we start breaking it down, then our noses are going to bleed and shit. So anyway, tonight's story, we're like mentioned, we're going to go into my retail world here, and we're going to talk about when I worked for a little company called Go Calendars and how it was like one of the most unorganized fucking I almost wanted to rip my hair out. But before we get to that story, I want to give a quick shout out to the great people over at MoviesAreUSA.biz who proudly sponsor Stories No One Asked For, the podcast. I almost said three-way dance wrestling podcast. But they proudly sponsor Stories No One Asked For, the podcast, and it's a great website where you can head on over and find. It was hard to find movies and TV shows that have either never been available on DVD or Blu-ray before, or haven't been on Blu-ray or DVD in quite a long time. And if you head on over there and use my checkout code, that being artist, ARTIST, at checkout, you'll save 50% on your purchase. And on top of all that, if that wasn't enough for you, you're going to get free first class shipping. And international listeners, hey, we got Philippines listening now. Hey, if you want that MoviesAreUSA.biz goodness, you can get it too. You can get free first-class international shipping as well as using that checkout code ARTIST, saving yourself 50% on your purchase. And right now, one of the top grossing movies of the year is the Eras Tour, Taylor Swift, the Eras Tour concert movie. You can get that over there right now for the low price of using my checkout code, $20. That's the price of the ticket at the movie theater. That's like a buck less at the movie with the taxes and everything, you know? So head on over to MoviesAreUSA.biz, use that checkout code ARTIST, and save yourself 50% on your entire purchase, not just one item, the entire purchase. And let them know that Artist from Stories No One Asked For, the podcast sent you. All right, so let's get into tonight's story. So back in 2012, 2013, I got a job working with Go Calendars, which is, you see those kiosks around the mall every year. And to me, this was a walk in the park because, as mentioned, on my lives on YouTube and everything, I worked in calendars before. I worked in calendars for 2 years, working with Borders, because Borders had a sub company called Day by Day Calendar. Which I worked there. So, I knew what I was getting myself into. I knew it was going to be a little different, under a different umbrella, a different company, Borders and Go Calendar, probably two different companies. So, I knew what I was getting into. So, I think I saw the ad on Craigslist because I was looking for a job at the time. So, I think I just saw it on Craigslist. So, I applied, and the guy emails me, and he's like, hey, can you come meet me at this Starbucks? I forgot where it was. O'Fallon. That's where it was, in O'Fallon. On this day, we'll talk. I'm like, yeah, fucking A, right on. So, the day of the interview, I go out to my car, and the car was already in not perfect condition. So, I go out to the car, I go to start it, and it won't start. And I'm like, are you fucking for real? So I go to start it again, and it won't start. The fucking battery's dead. And I'm like, no. So I emailed the guy because I'm stuck there. I don't know the bus system to that part of Illinois at the time because that's where I was living, Illinois. If I didn't mention that. So I was like, fuck. So I email him. I was like, hey, I'm so sorry to do this, but can we possibly reschedule? I just went out to start my car and the battery is dead. I'm getting a new battery for it right now. Can we possibly reschedule? If not, I'll completely understand. And he emails me back. He was like, yeah, let's move it to Monday at this time. And I was just like, okay, again, I'm so sorry about this. So we get the battery in. Monday comes, and the car had other problems other than the battery. I mean, it had what was it? A radiator leak. It had a whole bunch of stuff wrong with it. I mean, the car was like one step away from being held together with like paper clips and bubble gum. So, so the day came. I wake up that morning, and at the time, I'm talking to my baby mama. She's not pregnant or anything at the time. We're just like kind of talking. So I get in the car, and I'm driving up there, and I'm talking to her, and all of a sudden, I'm seeing smoke coming out of the hood. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to have to call you back. And she's like, what's wrong? And I was like, there's smoke coming out of my car. I want to make sure I get to my destination. She was like, okay, well, let me know what happens. I was like, okay. So meanwhile, I'm wearing like, nice shoes, some khaki pants, a button-up shirt, because I wanted to look nice. And I'm just like, oh, please let this car just get to where it's going. Because, like, I think from where I noticed the smoke to where my destination was, I was about 3 miles out. So I had to get off on this little patch of highway. That was going to be like a half a mile. That's all I needed. So I get off on that highway and I'm going. I see the smoke just pouring now. I'm like, oh my God, just make it to the Starbucks and we'll figure it out, man. Just make it to the Starbucks. We'll figure it out there. All of a sudden, I was like, ah, shit. Car just fucking blew up, man. I had to pull over to the side of the road, call my mom, let her know what's going on. And I was just like, but I can't stay right here right now. I got to get to this job interview. And she was like, all right, well, just call me when your interview's done and we'll figure it out. I'm still like a half a mile out from the fucking Starbucks that I need to be at. So next to the road, there's like one of those like barbed wire fences, but it's like at waist level. So I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna have to climb this barbed wire fucking fence and get there. So I try and climb over this barbed wire fence, but like it's so loose that like whenever I step on it, my foot keeps swinging back and forth, back and forth. I can't get it steady. So I'm like, damn it. So I was like, fuck it. I'm just gonna have to take the long way around because if I would have walked around, I would have been late. If I would have cut through this field that I was trying to cut through, I would have made it there with plenty of time. So I start walking, and all of a sudden I see that one of the barbed wires, the top one, was like gone. So there was only 2 barbed wires. So I was like, I can step over that. So I step over that, boom, I cut through the field. I get to the Starbucks, and believe it or not, I beat the guy there. I was actually shocked, you know. So I meet the guy there, and the guy comes in, and I swear to God, I wish I had a picture of this guy that I could put up. The guy looked just like Larry David from fucking Curb Your Enthusiasm. Looked just like the fucking guy. I mean, you would think it was him. So he comes in, he's like, hi, and his name was fucking David. That's what's even scarier about it. So he comes in, he's like, oh, hi, I'm David, you must be Will. I was like, yes, that's me. And so he was like, oh, yeah, so, you figure out the car? I was like, uh-huh. Like I'm not going to tell him what happened. So we get talking, and he's just like, so you've done calendars before, right? I was like, yeah, I used to do them for Borders. I did them for about 2 years. And he was like, okay, so I like what I hear. I was like, okay. But he essentially just hired me because I've been in this business before. That's all I needed to hear. The only other question he asked me, he was like, okay, the only thing I want to ask you is, like, we're going to do deposits. So if I always want the drawer at $150 and you have $300 in your drawer, how much money do you take out? I'm like, $150. And he's like, okay, all right, well, that's all I need to know. And he's like, so do you have, will the car be a problem getting to the mall? And I was like, did you see the red station wagon coming in on the side of the road? And he kind of just looked at me like, yeah, and I was just like, that's my car. But I will be able to get to the mall every day. If you can put me on like in the mornings, then I should be able to get there every day. And he's like, oh, okay, that shouldn't be a problem then, you know? And he was like, okay, well, he was like, we're going to pay you a check, a handwritten check, um, all this stuff, like there was really no like payroll. Like he was paying us out of pocket. He was like a franchise, so to speak, you know? So I go for my first day, all right? And he's like, come to the end of the mall. That in front of Dillard's is where we're gonna have the fucking kiosk. So I go to the other end of the mall. I walk past one kiosk that's covered up, and I was just like, okay, so that must be the one kiosk. I'm gonna be at the other one at Dillard's. So I walk all the way down to Dillard's. There's no kiosk, and I'm like, huh? I'm looking too. I'm like, am I not seeing it? I'm looking at other kiosks, and it's like, nope, this isn't us. So after a few, I finally call him. I was like, "Hey, I'm at the kiosk in front of Dillard's, and there's nothing here." And he's like, "Oh, we're actually gonna set that up tomorrow. Can you maybe work the other one?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem. That's not a problem, man." So I go back to the other one and I take the curtains down. None of the product is on the shelf, and I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like, it's just a kiosk with a bunch of boxes." And I'm like, "Oh crap." Which that should have been my fucking foreshadowing right there. I should have just saw the writing on the fucking wall with that, indication right there, but I didn't. I really wish I should have in retrospect, but I didn't. So I'm basically starting to build this fucking kiosk from scratch. And I don't have a map at the time. Now, for those of you who don't know what a fucking map is for like a business, I'm pretty sure you know what a map is, but for those of you who don't know what one is for a business, a map is basically, it tells you where, like, okay, they want all the fucking Oakland Raiders calendars to go here. They want all the Kitty Cat calendars to go here and everything like that. So I'm looking for one of them because I'm like, all right, if I got to put all this fucking product on the shelf, then I'm going to need to know where to fucking put it. And I can't find one. So I'm just like, all right, so now let me go back to when I worked at the other calendar place. I had a boss who, I mean, I've talked about her many, many times. I had a boss named Bonnie. And Bonnie, to this day, I compare every fucking boss that I've ever had since Bonnie to Bonnie. Okay? Because Bonnie was a no nonsense type of lady. She'll wheel and deal with you on days off if you needed them. She'd be like, hey, come in. If you come in Wednesday, I'll give you Friday off. Like, okay, cool, deal. Like, I remember one time, like, she was like, Will, I need you to come in Thursday. I'm like, if I come in Thursday, can I have Friday off? She was like, I can't give you Friday, but I can give you Saturday. I'm like, done. Like, that's the kind of person Bonnie was and everything. But Bonnie also had very high standards, okay? She wanted shit done her way, and I was terrified of that woman, because, like, I didn't want to piss her off. So like every night when I closed the kiosk, I made sure shit was nice and straight, it looked nice and everything like that, you know? So keep that in mind, you know? So now I'm having to remember what Bonnie taught me when it came to calendars, putting this fucking kiosk together, you know? So I'm like, all right, so I'm coming up with my own map now. I was like, all right, we're going to put all the sports calendars here. Then we're going to put this here, right here. Then we're going to put this. I literally get we had 4 quadrants. So imagine like 4 large squares in the middle of the mall. I literally get like, I don't know, 1.5 squares done before I find the map. And I was like, you're fucking kidding me, man. So now I had to take all the product that I've already put down and in back stock, because you have to organize your backstock, which I'm gonna mention that later, and start again because I actually found the map and my map was way wrong, So boom, I start that over and I'm there by myself. The only people who show up are the people that they hired to manage it and assistant manage it. Which, oh boy, they picked a fucking ragtag group of fucking people. So I'm going, man. Like, I'm just trying to get the shit open because, the mall has for anybody who's ever worked in a mall has very, very strict rules and everything. They want your kiosk to be open at fucking 9 o'clock, not 9:01, not 9:04, 9 o'clock. If your shit ain't open at 9 and somebody sees it, like somebody from the mall sees it, you're going to hear about it. They want your gate open to your store at 9 a.m. or whatever time your mall opens. They want that shit open at 9 a.m. They want shit done their way. You know. So I'm trying to get all this shit on the shelf because, like, I don't want somebody from the mall coming by and saying, like, you don't have any product on your shelf. What are you doing? So, like, I'm booking it, man. I'm sweating my ass off, you know. After this, like, oh God, I had to take like 3 buses in the morning, cause in like 30-degree weather, or like even less, I think. So I'm sweating my ass off. I'm wearing a headband. I had to take the headband off because I'm sweating so much. Finally, David gets there at around, I don't know, I get off at 4 and he shows up at like, I don't know, 3:58. No, I'm kidding. No, but he showed up I think he showed up at like 1, and he's like, wow, you've made some progress on this thing. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going by the map here and everything. And I gave him, like, I had like these cereal bars in my bag that I had. He was like, man, I am just starving. I'm so sorry. I'm just really off today because I'm starving. I was like, here, I got some cereal bars here if you want them. And he's like, oh, no, I don't want to take your food. I was like, man, I got plenty, man. Go ahead, take you one, man. He was like, oh, my God, thank you so much. And he was so happy I gave him those cereal bars. So that was day 1. Okay, so the next day, he's like, okay, tomorrow we're going to have the kiosk at Dillard's. Plus, we're going to meet the other, like, shift fleet, essentially. And I'm like, okay, cool. So next day, I show up early at the mall. I get to the mall early, and I'm sitting in front of the Starbucks, and I'm drinking a Diet Coke with lime. And I get done drinking my Diet Coke with lime, and I'm like, all right, I should really get down to the kiosk, or the area where the kiosk is at. And I get down there, and there's a girl there. I forgot her name, but she was apparently going to be like the shift lead or assistant manager. She was like, hi, I'm this, nice to meet you. I was like, hi. David shows up. And thankfully, we didn't have to fucking put the kiosk together. Thankfully, the people there did it. But, like, they built the kiosk from the ground up. So, my idea was, I was like, you know what? I will fucking throw the product on there while they're fucking building it up and shit, man. Save us all a lot of time and shit. So, they put up one. I throw the product up. Boom, it's ready to go. They throw up the next one, which is the entertainment one, So they throw up that one. I get like a 3/4 of the way through that one. And all of a sudden they found out, and this is how strict the mall is, okay? All of a sudden they found out the kiosk is 3 feet, 3 feet off. Like it had to be 3 feet more to I think right or left. I don't know. I can't remember. And they're like, oh, that's okay. We can just do that. So they put their feet on it and they shove it 3 feet to the left, knocking over all my product, and nobody gave a shit. And I was like, are you kidding? And I just looked at it like, are you kidding me? And David had the audacity to come over to me and he was just like, well, Will, don't be so upset. And I was just like, David, they just knocked over all the product that I just put on this damn shelf. So again, should have saw it there, but I didn't. After that day, I never saw that manager again. She apparently quit or got fired or something like that. I was just like, damn, it's only the 3rd day. And she already quit. Now, to save you guys a whole lot of time, so I don't remember, calendar kiosks usually go from, depending on the kiosk, it could start, late August, early September, and go, depending on your inventory, could go all the way through mid-January, early February. Just depends on your inventory. Okay? This one happened to go to about mid-January. Okay? In that time frame, we started in October. End of September. That's when it was. End of September. So October, November, December, 3 months, within a 3.5 month period, the amount of people that were either fired or quit were in the double digits. It was unreal. And you got to think, I worked at the kiosk with Bonnie for 2 years, and the amount of people who were fired were like fucking 0. And the amount of people who quit were like, I don't know, 2, within a 2-year span. And I think Jackie was one of them, So that was unreal to me. So now we get going. We get the holiday season. Let me take a sip of my drink here. So we get the season going. We finally got kiosk up and running, and they put me at the one at Dillard's. I basically become the 8 to 4 person. I show up at 8. I open it up. I leave at 4 when the next person comes in, and that's it. You know? So the problem with that was, see, again, going back to Bonnie's standards, I always walked around my kiosk. You know, if somebody showed up, hey, is there something I can do for you? Okay, well, give me a holler if you need something. Okay, I'll be right over here. That's the shit Bonnie taught us and shit, because they didn't really train us at Go Calendar. I mean, for somebody like me, they pretty much said, "Oh, you've done this before," and just threw me out into the fucking ocean and said, "Swim." And I'm like, okay, so I started swimming. So like I had a general idea of what I was doing. So like every day, when it's time for me to go, when I know that, what was the girl's name? I think it was Amy. Whenever she would come in, I would start straightening up the kiosk, make sure it's all nice and neat and everything. I want everything to look nice, for the next day and everything. The only bad thing is they wouldn't do the same thing for me, because like every morning, I would open the curtains and it was just like a fucking tornado hit. I mean, you would have the frog calendars. Yes, there are frog calendars. You would have the frog calendars over in front of Taylor Swift. You would have like the Thomas Kincaid calendars where the dog calendars are. And I'm the only thing, I can't tell you how many times I opened that kiosk and just looked at it, and it was just like, if Bonnie saw this, she'd fucking kill us. Like if this was Bonnie's kiosk and she opened this kiosk and saw it the way that it was, we'd be fucking dead. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts. So like that got really annoying. That like every morning when I got there after I counted my drawer and got change. Oh yeah, God, I forgot to write that down. Getting change. They're like, oh, we're not going to provide change. We're like, what? How are we supposed to get change then? They're like, oh, just go to the businesses around the mall. They'll give you change. And I was like, you know what? I can't believe this. I can't believe this happened. So we were banking through a bank called U.S. Bank. That's where we got the deposits from, everything like that. So I was like, you know what, guys, if it makes it easier for you, when I come in on the bus, there's a U.S. Bank right there. If you give me a change order slip in the morning, I can just stop there and get change every morning. They looked at me and laughed when I asked that. And I was just like, oh, why are we laughing? Like, I thought that was a perfectly legitimate request. Like, instead of asking all the businesses around us for change, which some days I'm just like, I'd rather put a fucking gun in my mouth than have to go do that. Give me a change order. I'll go over to the bank. It's right there when I get off the bus, and I'll get change for us. Like, it's not a problem. But they wouldn't do that. So yeah. So one day, this was the first incident here. So one day, they're like, hey, Will, can you come work the other kiosk? Now, I usually worked at the one down by Dillard's. And they're like, can you come work the other one while this person works yours and everything like that? I was like, okay, that's fine. So I come down and look at this kiosk, and oh my God, nothing is, straightened up. Nothing is in the right spot. Nothing is organized. At this point, it's been like a month. Maybe a little less. Maybe about 3 weeks. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, what is going on down here? So I go to open our backstock. Now, the backstock, we had 2 backstocks. We had one that was like in the mall. So you're like, if you needed more product, you had to go to like your special area in the mall. And we had drawers that you pull out and search through. So if you need to replace some product, you had, product right there. So you wouldn't have to leave. The first time I opened the drawer down there, all their, at my kiosk, let's put it like that. At my kiosk, all the entertainment kind of like Taylor Swift, the Beatles, I Love Lucy, all that backstock was right there. The sports calendars, all that backstock was right there in that drawer. Whereas at this kiosk, if I open the entertainment backstock, oh, there's dogs, there's Thomas Kincaid, there's fucking frogs. I'm just like, oh my God. So I made it my mission that day to straighten up everything on this kiosk. My whole 8-hour shift went to rearranging this kiosk. I put everything back in its right place. I straightened up their backstock. I made it look nice and neat. I was like, look, I even showed them. I'm like, look, here's all your backstock. See, when you have your dogs all right here now. You just flip through, find your dog, boom, replace it. It's not all jumbled and everything now. Oh, Will, that's actually a good idea. I'm like, yeah, I fucking know. Yeah, it's a lot easier, isn't it? So, 8 hours. Okay, and that's not an exaggeration. 8 hours in between customers doing that, you know? So the next day I go back to my kiosk, work my shift there. Then, for some reason, I forgot what it was, but that's what it was. They called me down to the kiosk. That's what it was. They're like, Will, can you come down and grab this? I was like, yeah, sure. So I put my sign up. Whenever we had to leave or go to the bathroom or something, we just had to put a sign up that said, sorry, be back, whatever. So I put my sign up. I walked down there. This is 2 days. 2 days after I straightened everything. It was like a fucking tornado hit it again. None of the stuff was in the right place. And I was just like, what the fuck? And I was just so fucking mad, so I was just like, okay. So I went back to my kiosk and David's there. And I'm so fucking mad. And David's like, so, Will, how's it going today? I'm like, good. And David's like, what's wrong? I was like, nothing. Nothing at all. And he's like, okay. He could tell something was wrong, but he didn't want to pry too much. And he was like, okay, well, everything looks good down here and everything. I'm like, uh-huh. And then he stopped. He was like, Will, listen to me. I can't fix the problem unless you tell me what the problem is. And I was like, David, listen to me. I went down to the other kiosk the other day because they asked me to work it. And for 8 hours, all I did was straighten up that kiosk, put their backstock in order, and all of a sudden, it's all messed up again, David. I can't do everybody's work around here, And he looked at me for a second, and he was just like, I was like, David, I can just go work somewhere else, And he looked at me for a second, and he was like, you know what, Will? That kiosk down there, that's no longer your responsibility. Don't you ever worry about that kiosk again. I was like, okay, fine, And then there was another pause, and he was just like, hey, Will, is there a Longhorn Steakhouse around here? And I'm like, what a random ass fucking question to ask me right now. I'm fucking furious about, the mess that happens at this fucking kiosk. I got the person who comes in after me who doesn't clean my fucking kiosk and shit. Because you gotta understand, when that person doesn't clean the kiosk, that's not a reflection on them. That's also a reflection on fucking me, And I was like, and he's worried about where a goddamn Longhorn Steakhouse is? I'm like, yeah, David, there's one right over here across the road, pointing, in the direction of it. And he pulls out his wallet and he's like, here, Will. And he hands me a Longhorn Steakhouse gift card. And he's like, here, you've been working hard and everything. I want you to go have dinner tonight on me. And, again, that kiosk is not your responsibility anymore. You don't have to do anything for that kiosk anymore. I'm like, okay, David, thank you. And I put it in my pocket, So, now there was another incident that I'm going to get to later, but one day on my day off, or right before my day off, they're like, Will, we have a new girl coming in, because, this is the fucking 15th new girl we had. So they're like, Will, can you come in and train her, show her how the kiosk works and everything, and then you can leave. That's all we need. Because they were running me nonstop. I was literally working 6 days a week. It's 8 to 4 and sometimes double shifts, because the girl who was coming in for me, the Amy girl, she eventually just stopped showing up. So I'd be working, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. I'd be getting home at 11 o'clock and then going to bed, waking up at 6 a.m. to catch the bus and do it all over again. I was burning the candle at fucking both ends here, So they hired somebody to take some pressure off of me, So they said, Will, on this day, can you come in? I know it's your day off. We'll pay you for it. but can you come in and train her on how to run the kiosk and everything like that? And then, we're hiring her to give you some time off. I'm like, okay, yeah, fine. So I come in. Took me about 2 hours to show her everything. I thought it was going to be longer, but I showed her everything for about 2 hours. I, showed her all the calendars. Basically, did to her what Bonnie did to me. Like everything that Bonnie ever showed me, I showed her. You know? So I was like, you think you got it? And the girl's like, yeah, I got it. I was like, okay, well, if you need anything, call this number. That's, our manager. I forgot the girl's name. I was like, that's our manager. And if you need anything else, call this number. That's our other kiosk that's down there. Okay. And she was like, okay. I was like, all right, see you later. And I had tomorrow off. So not only did I only have to work 2 hours that day, but I had tomorrow off too. It's like, fucking A, man. Like I needed that fucking time off because like I was exhausted, you know? So I go home, I relaxed that day and shit. I think I went around the mall for a bit and then like fucking went home and relaxed after my 2 bus rides or 3. No, it's 2 going home. That's what it is, 2 going home. So the next day, I wake up at like fucking 8:30 in the morning. My sister needed to go to Walmart. I was like, okay, cool. So I get dressed, I go to Walmart. It's like 9:30 now. So all of a sudden, I'm looking at the movie section at Walmart. My phone rings. It's my manager at, not David, but it's like the manager who looks over the kiosk at the mall. And I answered the phone. I was like, hey, what's up? And she was just like, how come you're not at the mall? I was like, because it's my day off. And she was like, well, we kind of need you to open. I'm like, what? What about the fucking new girl? And they're like, oh, we had to fire her. I was like, what? I just trained her yesterday. They're like, yeah, during her shift, some money came up missing. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I was like, so you need me there, don't you? And she was like, could you? I was like, oh my God. I was like, somebody better be there at 4 o'clock. She was like, I promise, somebody will be there at 4 o'clock. I was like, okay. So I had to fucking leave Walmart, go home, get dressed, and fucking go to that goddamn mall again. So here was the other fucking, here's another incident. Okay. So we had this one girl, and she was real cool to talk to and everything. I don't know what the fuck happened, but she was real cool to talk to. We were getting along just fine. We added each other on Facebook and everything, and she left like a calendar purposely in the wrong spot to fuck with me because I told her, I was like, please straighten up at night. That's a big thing with me. Please straighten up the kiosk at night. It's a big thing. So like she left like we had a calendar. It was a hot guys with cute dogs. She left that calendar purposely in front of the Obama calendar, just to like fuck with me. And I was just like, you did this on purpose, didn't you? So Black Friday's coming now. Black Friday, much like when I worked at Borders, you tend to work in pairs. You have a second person there, so so you're not trying to watch all your product at once. Everything like that. So it's going to be me and this girl. I honestly don't remember her fucking name. I want to say Brittany, but I don't even think that's right. Fuck it. We'll call her Brittany for this story. So it's going to be me and Brittany. And we also hired Brittany's boyfriend, or her boyfriend's name I remember. His name is Steven. And I think it was going to be Steven and the girl we had, Sunny, at the other one. Me and Sunny are the only two who made it through the entire season. So she comes down and looks me dead in the eye. Like, I didn't say a fucking word to this girl. She looks me dead in the eye. She was like, oh, I'm working with you. And I'm like, yeah? Like I didn't know that was a problem. She was like, oh, I don't want to work with you because you're mean. And I was like, a customer came up. So I took care of the customer. I was like, there you go. Have a great day. And I looked at her and I was like, you know what? If you don't want to work down here because I'm mean, you can just go work at the other kiosk. I can do this by myself. She was like, Will, I was just trying to, say that. I was like, you can go work at the other kiosk. Like, if you don't want to work down here because I'm mean, you can go to the other one. So finally she fucking leaves. So I'm working a Black Friday fucking kiosk by myself. And I fucking owned it too. Here was the PS to that fucking story, though. I'm getting another drink here. So I have a long line of people because, now I'm doing it by myself, right? Now, again, sometimes, like mentioned earlier, we'd have to go to businesses and get change, or if we had it, we'd give change to one another. So, like, if the other kiosk called me, like, hey, do you have 5 in dimes? Like, yeah, sure. Come on down with 5 and I'll give you dimes. So, all of a sudden, I see her boyfriend, Steven, behind me, you know? And he's, like, trying to get my attention and everything. So, I'm thinking he needs change or something like that. And I have, like, a line of fucking people. So I'm with somebody, and I was like, there you go, you have a great day. And somebody's next, I was like, I'll be with you in just a moment. I was like, what's up, Steven? And he was like, oh, I just wanted to come down and tell you to, watch your mouth. And I was like, I just looked at the customer, and I was like, just one moment. I was like, excuse me? And he was like, oh, I said I came down here to say, watch your mouth. I was like, I'm going to tell you this one time. I was like, your little girlfriend, I didn't cuss at her. I didn't yell at her. I didn't do anything to her. So you know what? If you have any more problems with me, you call the manager's name. I don't even remember her name. You call her and tell her to deal with it. You got it? He was like, just watch what you say. I was like, you better get out of my kiosk now unless you need something. And he walked away. You know? So the final incident, other than, the one coming up. So like mentioned earlier, we have a map. And the map, tells you where everything goes and how it's supposed to be placed. And now it's a very strict, thing to follow. Like the GM of Go Calendars actually fucking audited me. Let me tell you this real quick, and then I'll go back to that. So like I'm at my kiosk one day and I see this lady walking around. So I go over and I was like, hey, what can I do for you? She was like, oh, I'm just looking. I was like, okay, well, give me a holler if you need some help. I'll be right over here. All of a sudden, she pulls out her fucking business card. She was like, hi, I'm Sandra. I'm with Go Calendar and everything. I was like, oh, you fucking... Because they do that shit. They did it at Borders, too. I was like, oh, you fucking bitch. So she was like, okay, so I like this right here. I like this. Everything looks nice here. You keep this in good order and everything. I was like, okay. She came over to my register. She's like, what's this? I had speakers set up. I had an iPod and I had like little speakers plugged into it. So, I could play music when nobody's here. She's like, what's this? I was like, oh, those are speakers. I play music when, nobody's around. She was like, no, we can't have that. I was like, okay. So I just unplugged the speakers and put them in my bag. On top of that, she's explaining to me, Go Calendars, very serious business. Da, da, da. At the time, my friend Dylan, who I talked to online, all of a sudden, at my peripheral vision, I see somebody walking up to the fucking kiosk, and I turned to him. I was like, yes, what can I do for it? And it's fucking Dylan. First time I've ever fucking seen him. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, dude, I'll be with you in just a moment. And then she looks at me and she was like, yeah, and we also wouldn't like if friends visit you while we're here. I was like, oh, Christ, Dylan. So she talks to me for a few more minutes. She was like, okay, well, I'll get out your hair and everything. You have a good day. And I was like, yeah, you too, And she was like, there's my card, so call me if you need anything. I was like, all right, we'll do. So I go over to Dylan. I was like, you just got me in trouble. He's like, what? What did I do? I was like, you walked up. You weren't supposed to walk up. So anyway, back to the other incident. So I get called down to the kiosk or something. For the other kiosk, and I was like, better not be to touch anything because like I'm not responsible for that shit anymore. So I go down there, and next to the kiosk we had what they called calendar gift wrapped. It's basically just like a little cardboard sleeve. You slide your calendar in, fold it over, boom, it's gift wrapped. They're a buck. Very simple upsell to do. So I go down there, and there's like a little rack next to the register, like I said. And now, if you flip them upwards, like, stood them upright, you can get 6 of them in there, just standing them upright. You just have to, like, stack them. I don't know how to describe it verbally. But when I went down there, the guy had them down horizontally. So he only had 3 of them in there. And I'm just like, so I didn't say anything, like, I was like, okay, he's the assistant manager. He knows the map and everything. So I forgot what I went down there for. I forgot what the original intention of me going down there was. But I know, like, right before I left, I set up the calendar gift wrap the correct way, And he looks at me, like, with this shit-eating fucking grin on his face and puts them right back down the way he had them. And I just fucking looked at him. And I just threw my arms up in the air and I was like, that's it. I am done with all of you fucking people. Cause like, it's one thing, like, to like do it your way, but like you did it right there in front of me. You couldn't even wait for me to fucking leave before you fucking did that. I was so fucking done. I turned around and just started walking away. They're like, Will, come back. I just kept fucking walking because I was like, if I turn around, I'm going to say some shit that I'm going to fucking regret. You know? I get a text message from my manager and it's just like, Will, he didn't mean it in a rude way or anything. I just didn't even respond to it because I was so fucking done at that point. And at the time, one of our upsells was taking or asking people like, hey, would you like to buy a little bear? And you know, and the people who didn't want to buy a bear, I would tell them like, hey, how about you buy the bear and I donate it to the St. Louis Children's Hospital, which they were more inclined to do that. So every day I would walk by their kiosk like, hey, do you have any bears? And they never had any fucking bears. I had like piles of these fucking bears in my house. Fuck, I think I may still have some floating around here every now and then. Um, so after that, that full, he's just gonna do that right in front of me. I just stopped going to the kiosk. I would take like alternate routes out of the mall to avoid it and shit. So finally, like about 4 or 5 days go by. I'm at the kiosk and my manager comes by. I forgot what she came by for, but she was like, "Oh, hey, Will." I was like, "Hey," because like I'm so over this job at this point because like all the stuff mentioned. Plus, I'm being fucking run rampant. I'm doing so many double shifts because they can't find somebody to work 4 to 9, or 4 to 9. Again, burning the candle at both ends, man. It was a fucking pain in my ass. I'm doing so many double shifts, so I'm just over it. You know. So she was like, "How's it going?" I was like, "Great." You know. And then she just stopped and she was like, "Is there something wrong between us?" I was like, "No." No, I'm just here to sell calendars. Which became like my fucking motto, like my mantra to get through the fucking rest of the season. Like, just sell calendars, man. You know? So she was just like, "Are you sure, Will? Because you don't come by the other kiosk anymore." Everything. I was like, "Yeah, I go a different way out." Like I didn't give a shit at that point. So she was just like, "Are you sure there's not anything you want to talk about?" I was like, "I'm just here to sell calendars." That's all I would say. Like I couldn't deal with it anymore. You know, that's when I just gave up. You know, so like I said, I'm doing nonstop double shifts, and I finally just had to say something. I was just like, I can't keep doing these double shifts. You have to get somebody in here. I can't keep fucking doing it. So, um, they asked me. They're just like, Will, if you work this double shift right here, it'll be the last one you have to do. Because like now we're like 2 weeks away, like about a week and a half away from being done with the kiosk. So he was like, if you work this double shift right here, we won't ask you to do another one. I was like, okay, fine, deal. So I did the double shift, and 2 days later, they're like, oh yeah, this person's not coming in at 4 tonight. I was like, well, that's probably not my problem, you know. So, you so I'll be damned. 3 o'clock comes around. They're just like, oh, Will, you don't mind staying tonight, right? I was like, yeah, I do mind. They're like, yeah, but Will, we don't have another person coming in. I was like, that's not my problem. I was like, I was told that last double shift I did was the last double shift I was doing. They're like, yeah, but Will, that person's not coming in. I was like, I don't care. I'm not staying, because I was so fucking over it. I was like, I was probably, the amount of double shifts that I did were in the double digits, you know? And he looked at me, he just kind of like nodded his head, like, okay. And he walked away. 10 minutes later, the phone rings. Thank you for calling Go Calendar, St. Clair Square. This is William. How can I help you? Hey, Will, it's David. Yeah, I should have known you were going to call. And he was like, so I have an offer for you. I was like, it better be an offer. I can't refuse, David. He's like, Will, I know we said the last one was going to be the last double shift. I was like, uh-huh. He was like, if you work this one after 4 o'clock, I'll give you $15 an hour. And I was like, ugh. I was like, all right, fine. I'll do it. And then after that, though, man, you didn't hear a peep from me after that. Because, like, I think I had, like, 4 shifts left after that. And after that 4th shift, man, they didn't ask me for... I think there was... After my last shift, there was, like, 5 days left. No, it couldn't have been 5 days because I would have worked some of them. I think 3. I think there was 3 days left. There was a few days left after my last shift, but they knew not to call me because I was not going to show up. You know, the last time I saw the guy running it, David, he had to give me my last check, and I actually was staying at a hotel that was like right up the street from my house. You know, and I told him, I was just like, dude, this was hell. I want you to know that. You know. Oh no, that's something I forgot. So one of the last days, before like all this bullshit, before the double shift and everything, I get a call from the manager there, and she's like, "Can you come down to the kiosk real quick?" I was like, "Oh Christ!" So I come down there, and I'm looking at a blank, like side of the kiosk because we're selling out a product left and right and everything. So I was like, "Yeah," and she was like, "Well, if you were the manager, what would you put in this spot?" And I was like, well, since we don't have the calendars that go there, just put the leftover backstock over there. She was like, oh, that's a good idea. Okay, well, that's all I needed. And I was just like, for real? You had to call me for that? Like, you couldn't figure that one out on your own there? Like, again, selling calendars is not one of those fucking jobs that is just, it's not hard. But when you work with people like that, it's one of those jobs that make it hard. You know what I mean? So, that was actually the last time I ever dealt with calendars. Never worked with them again. I was about to say, I think I actually stole like 3 calendars because of it, because I felt like I earned them. Because I think like I took my baby mama's mom, one of them. I took mine, and I think I took somebody else's. I can't remember what it was. I know there was 3 of them I took. I was like, I don't care. I don't give a shit either. I was like, all the work that I put in for this company, I think I've earned a few free calendars. Trying to see, did I forget anything here? Double shifts, last double shift. Yeah, okay. So that's what it was like working for Go Calendars. Again, it's an easy job. The inventory problems. Oh, I forgot about inventory problems. We had inventory issues, and it was just fucking insane. Like in our back room, like I had the back stock, we had the drawers and everything. But we also had a spot in the mall. Like we had to go like, in their corridors and everything. So in the corridor, on the left side was the first kiosk's inventory, and on the right side was my kiosk's inventory. Wasn't that hard to fucking remember? So I think one day I just needed inventory at my kiosk because I was running out. So we had the girl Sunny go up to inventory and come down. She came down with a cart full of stuff, and she was like, "Oh, I got stuff for both kiosks." I was like, "Okay, good. Which one's mine?" And she just froze and looked at me. I was like, "What?" She was like, "What do you mean? Which one's yours?" I was like, "Well, I mean, the left side's for the other kiosk, and the right side of the room is for my kiosk. So, I mean," and she just looked at me. She was like, I don't know. I just grabbed stuff. I was like, "Oh my god!" At that point. That was like after the double shift thing. I was just like, I just wanted to rip my fucking hair out at that point. There was another time where, like, with that girl I got into an argument with on Black Friday. There was one day there where, like, we got the shipment in, we got the freight in, and like when it was freight day, I had to, open all the boxes, check all the invoices, make sure every calendar was in there. So if it said we had 14 Thomas Kincaids, I had to count, make sure all 14 Thomas Kincaids were in there. Everything like that. So the shipment came at like 3:50 one day, and I got off at 4. And this girl was just not going to fucking help me with the inventory. Like, she just refused to help, So she was just like, Will, if you can't finish it, don't finish it then. And I was like, if I don't finish it, you're not going to finish it. And she didn't have a comeback for that. So I knew, she wasn't going to finish it. So, like, I was literally, like, fucking out of breath trying to finish it and everything. It was fucking insane, I mean, overall, they were a fine, overall, it's like Hy-Vee. When I worked at Hy-Vee, overall, the company itself is fine, but some of the people I had to work with, I'd run them over with a car if I had the chance, but yeah, that's what it was like working with Go Calendars, man. I mean, I made a lot of money fucking working there, but, I don't know, maybe it's changed now, because now they do Go Calendar and Game at the mall now, so maybe it's changed since then. I mean, this was 2012, 2013, somewhere in there. Maybe a little bit before 13. So I don't know, maybe it's changed now. But because like I actually saw that they were hiring at the mall, and I was like, "Ooh, man, maybe I should go back in the calendars." But I was like, I don't know, I don't think I can handle that again. If it's like it was last time, I don't think I could handle it again. I'd fucking lose my mind. So, but yeah, there it is. That is the story that you didn't ask for here. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this episode of Stories No One Asked For. So if you hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode, and yeah, I'll see you guys or hear from you guys on the next one. Until next week, guys. I am the Artist Version 1, and remember, be breezy.